topic today for me is unfiltered momentum, how to find flow in your creative process. And do you know why I chose that song? Anybody? No? Is this thing on? We still here? Okay, because I like dance parties, right? Anything. No. So the reason I chose Can't Stop the Feeling, because I love it anyway. But the reality is, finding your creative flow is a feeling that actually can stop. We actually can have that stop. And I'm going to do something a little different. So if you've never been in a place where you've never had creative flow stop, I want you to walk out the door. You've never had creative flow stop. Okay, so you're still here. So that means I'm in good company. So everybody has been in a place where your creative flow has stopped at one point in time. Good. Okay, I'm glad to know. I just wanted to make sure, like I was talking about something that everybody could understand. So creative flow, let's talk about this a little bit. All right, I'm gonna try this clicker piece here, so we're gonna see how that goes. So I'm Candice, Denise. I'm not even gonna go through this bio, because I don't know about you, I tend to hate hearing my own bio read. So we're gonna bypass that, because Damien did such a great job. And he didn't crack any jokes about my height, so I really appreciate it. I wore my heels purposely because I didn't want him to say anything about my height. So, but the purpose of this session is because, like I said earlier, we've all been there, all right? We've been there where we've been sitting at the keyboard, watching that cursor, hoping that some words show up on the screen. We've sat there trying to figure out strategy on our content or trying to come up with the next great thing, and we're like, what's happening? I can't figure it out. We've been drawing blanks and trying to figure out how are we going to come up with something new, whether it's in our business or in our life. Creativity is not something that's always guaranteed. Like I said, that's a feeling that actually can stop. And just like writer's block, it can hit you, and it can hit you hard and unexpectedly, okay? So we've all got a wellspring of ideas inside of us, and your mental block doesn't change that. Sometimes we feel like when we have these mental blocks with our creativity, we feel like, well, we don't have anything to give. Actually, you do. It's inside of you. It's always there. The thing is, when it happens, you have to understand, how do you reclaim that creative flow again, all right? And so that's the purpose of this session. What is actually creative flow? So we say that word, right? We hear the word creative turned around. As Damien mentioned earlier, I'm a creative director, so I work with female entrepreneurs, and I stage and produce photo shoots for them for their brand marketing images. And so what happens, I feel like, when I tell people I'm a creative director, they're instantly like, oh, so you probably come up with creative stuff all the time. Like, you just wake up creative, right? Like, you just see stars, rainbows, lollipops, gumdrops. And I'm like, I don't. I actually have a process. Thank you so much for believing that I actually, wake up like this, as Beyonce says, but I don't. And so I've got to manage my own creativity too. And creative flow is essentially a mental state in which a person is fully immersed in a feeling of energized focus, full involvement, and enjoyment in the participation of an activity. So the three things I want you to be able to walk away from in this session, all right? I don't like to give you a whole lot of stuff because you've already got a lot of amazing stuff today. But I do want to give you three things, hopefully some things that you can think about, add to your own creative flow, or, take it and give it to somebody else. Eat the meat, discard the bones, as my grandmother would say. So your creativity first is the first thing I want you to understand, that your creativity doesn't require reinventing the wheel. That's the first thing we're going to cover. The second thing is tips for finding your creative flow. These are things that I actually do. I want to share them with you. They may be things that you already do. There may be some things that you've never heard of and you may try to. And then lastly, how to lead with serving and not selling, okay? So moving on. First things first, your creativity doesn't require reinventing the wheel. What do I mean by that? First thing is, remember your why. When you're in business, you have to remember why you decided to do this. Why did you go into business? So often we are so much in the process of going, scaling, growing, developing that we forget the basics. We're trying to reinvent all this new creativity and find all of these innovative things, and that's great. Trends are amazing. Innovation is amazing. But sometimes simplicity and basics are amazing too. And we forget that. And so we've got to go back to that foundation that you don't have to reinvent the wheel. You may have to oil it a little differently or change it up or clean it a bit, but it's already there. Basics are not bad, especially when you know how to apply them and where to apply them. Second thing is be inspired, don't copy, okay? So I see this a lot, especially in our social media world. We are inspired by so many content creators, by so many other businesses and brands, and we should be. But we don't have to copy what they're doing. Reason being, when you start copying what someone else is doing in their business from a creative standpoint, you are copying something that may not be the blueprint for your business. Those people, those businesses, they are building based on who their target audience is. But if that's not your target audience, you're going to hit nothing when you try to use what they're doing. And then you're going to be frustrated because you're like, well, my stuff isn't working. It's not working because it was never yours. So be inspired by it, okay? It's okay to aspire, be inspired, but don't copy. My favorite thing to tell people is look at what the competitors are doing. Glance, but don't stare. By a show of hands, who drives their car like this? Right? I hope no one. I hope no one has put their hand up. Because if you did, what is your car? I don't want to follow you out of here today. So when you drive, you want to look, okay? Glance. When you're driving, one of the things they tell you in your test, check your mirrors, right? They say check the mirrors. Look in your mirror here, look in your mirror here, look in your mirror here, right? You might even look behind you, take a look there. But you're doing quick looks. But the whole purpose of looking is so that you can be able to know where you're going. You're staying focused here. So what I'm saying is, it's okay to look and be inspired by the creativity of others. It's okay to glance and see what your competitors are doing, or big brands and other businesses or small businesses, but don't stare. Don't get caught up, because when you stare for far too long, what starts to happen is imposter syndrome. So now you believe that you don't have what it takes because you did this. You took your eyes off of your road, all right? You've got to stay in your lane, in your highway, and understand that you got to where you are in business because clearly you had some level of creativity, and everybody has it in a different way. And what you don't have, you hire help for, all right? So if you're not the creative arm in your business, there are people that do that. That's what those roles and responsibilities can be given to someone else. But when you start staring, when you take your eyes off of your lane, then you're going to get distracted. And that's when your flow becomes off. Because now you're watching what they're doing. Oh my gosh, they're posting 3 reels a day. We've only got 1 a week. Oh my gosh, they are creating 3 months worth of content, editorial calendars. We are only working on 1 week worth. Okay, is your content still landing? Is it valuable? Is it impacting? Is it touching people? Is it making people stop and want to learn? Are they clicking on your link? Don't get caught up in looking at others and their confident creativity. It's really easy for people to show up on social media seemingly confident. But I know a lot of people who show up confident, but they don't live confidently. They're not actually really confident. When those lights come on, when these cameras come on, it's real easy to be that way. And so it seems like they're like, oh, we've got this, we're doing that. It's amazing. But understand this, a lot of times they have these amazing or big teams, and maybe it's just you, or maybe you're a smaller team. Don't try to compare your chapter 5 to someone's chapter 25. Okay? One more time. Don't try to compare your chapter 5 to somebody's 25. They got there doing what they did, and you'll get there doing what you do. Understand Rome wasn't built in a day, and your creativity is your superpower. Who you are as a person, how you speak, whether it's your dialect, your accent, where you're from, how you look, how you do things, your humor, your wit, your sarcasm, your dry humor, your no humor. All of those things are part of creativity for you. Third, don't get distracted by constant talk of innovation. Again, I believe innovation is great. So I don't want anyone in here to tackle me outside like, so you don't believe in innovation? I mean, what are we doing here? I do. But I also believe don't get caught up in that hype of innovation all the time. Because when you're so focused on trying to be the next, I've got to be here, I've got to be that, I've got to, this is out, so now I got to join this, and now this new app is out, so now I've got to be here, I've got to be there, you're going to spread yourself thin. And then when you start spreading yourself thin, what's happening is that you're losing focus, and now you don't understand why your creativity is not there. It's not there because you're too many places, because you're everywhere instead of being where you need to be. Your creativity needs to be focused, it needs to be honed in, and managing that means that you don't have to be what everybody else is. If Facebook works well for you and your business, rock that thing out. Okay? If Instagram is your zhush, then zhush away. You know what I mean? If Pinterest is it, LinkedIn, Snapchat, TikTok, who that, did that. I mean, it's so many out there, I can't even keep up, right? Is Periscope still a thing? I don't even know. It's not my thing, but it may still be your thing. And if you're able to create on it, do it. But innovation is cool, but it's not cool if it's starting to make you crazy because you're trying so bad to keep up with everything and you're losing focus of the thing that you should be doing. Second thing here that I want to talk about takeaway-wise, tips for finding your creative flow, okay? So here's some things that I do when I'm in that I can't seem to just get it right. When I'm sitting in front of my computer and I've got to put a mood board together and I've got to submit this to my client within a few days and I'm like, I don't know the concept for her shoot. I can't see her wardrobe. I can't see the location. I can't see a thing. How do I get my flow back? And this may be you. You may be sitting there like, I can't get these graphics together. I can't get this copy together. I can't understand what colors we need to be choosing. I can't seem to find the vision of the brand for this. Here's something you can do, a few things, okay? Change your environment. A lot of us right now have been forced to work from home or we've, chosen to work from home. Change it up. If you can go to a cafe, if you can go sit at, your local Panera or your local bakery or somewhere else, or changing up a space in your home. Environment is everything. One of the things that I had to do for myself was I had to curate an office space that made me feel like I wanted to create something. A lot of times you're in an environment that doesn't even lend itself to making you want to create. I had to change the position of my desk because for me, I didn't realize that looking out of a window opened me up to see. Not just see literally, but like in the figurative sense, like I could see vision. I was sitting at a wall before, and so the wall was actually blocking my mental capacity. So I changed the position of my desk. So your environment is something that you should be willing to change. If it's, you need to bring flowers in, if you need to color an accent wall, if you need to put some carpet down, if you need to have teddy bears or trolls sitting on your desk in order to help spike that creativity, do what you need to do for you. Connect to nature. Again, remember I talked about going back to the basics? We forget that we are literally given something so free as in going outside your door and listening to birds and seeing trees and leaves fall and grass on the ground and, just walking around your neighborhood. Those types of things, so simple, so basic, can get you going, can get your creativity moving. When you find yourself in a funk and you're like, I can't seem to figure anything out, first things first, change your environment. Second thing, connect to nature. Maybe there's a local garden around. Maybe there's a park. Go and sit on that bench. You don't have to take your laptop. Maybe take a notepad. Maybe just take your phone and voice record yourself when you start thinking about notes. But allow yourself to connect to nature. Watch an interview or a documentary. I don't know about you, but I'm inspired by when I hear the stories of other people and I see their documentaries or things of that sort. I recently watched, I'm a huge Audrey Hepburn fan. Any Audrey Hepburn fans out here? Yes, Miss Audrey. So I'm a huge Audrey Hepburn fan, and she has a or they did a documentary of her on Netflix. And I was in a creative funk, and I was like, you know what? Bump this. Where's that Netflix special about Audrey Hepburn? I want to watch it. So I cut it on, and I'm sitting there, and I literally just had a pen and pad next to me, and listening to her talk about her life, things that she did, how she overcame what she overcame, how she got to where she was, how she had to deal with different pressures and things in Hollywood, how love wasn't something that she didn't really do well in. It just started jogging my mind to think about things. And we don't realize, again, we can be inspired by someone else's story, as we were told. Our stories are important. Not just yours, but then stories of others can sometimes help build that creativity that you need. So take a moment, watch those. Allow yourself to experiment. The thing about children that is so beautiful is that they are willing to experiment. They will eat Play-Doh, they will taste paste, they will take a crayon and stick it in their ear. I mean, they will try anything. The innocence of childhood. We have gotten to be adults and we forgot what it was about to just experiment and try something different. So when you're in a creative funk, try something. Do something that you've never done before. Maybe that's, you know what? It's snowing outside. I'm gonna take my snow sled and I'm gonna go down this hill and I'm gonna try it. I don't care with this 40-year-old body, I'm going. I'm gonna do it and just pray that I can get up when I get down there, you know? Whatever that is that you have to do, try something new. Maybe it's you've never done a cooking class, do that. Allow yourself to be in spaces and places that allow you to create. Take time off and go away. Something Julia referred to earlier was about my best friend and I. Do you take soul retreats? My bestie and I of 26 years, we take a soul retreat. So we tell people we don't vacay, we retreat because we like to kind of go off the grid and take this time. But we build in time away. You know why? Because you've got to rejuvenate. You've got to jog your brain. You've got to give yourself time to get away from everything and detach and reconnect to self, thoughts, who you are. So as you're building out your planners and your calendars, because I know you are, you're thinking about these next quarters and you're thinking about the numbers and, the number of clients that we want to build. I challenge you to build in time away. Work retreats, personal retreats, these times that allow you, okay, as you're building out your calendar, literally put on there maybe once a month, maybe it's a half a day that you take, but this is designated time that you're allowing yourself to go away so that you can be able to give yourself this space to create without the pressure of creating, all right? Tap into some good music. Any music lovers out here? I just didn't choose the right song. Is that what it was? That's why y'all had me standing up here? It's okay. That's okay. Maybe if I come back next year, I'll get it right. Okay. But if music is your thing, let it fuel you. Let that thing get through you. I believe in a dance party every day. I will walk away from that computer. I will shut that laptop down and I will turn that playlist on. Someone said Spotify earlier. I will cut that Spotify on and I've got, all kinds of songs on there and I just get to moving. And that takes me into my last one here. Moving around, physical activity is really important because it starts moving those endorphins in your body. It starts getting you in a space where you're not thinking about anything, but stuff starts coming to you. You start listening to these lyrics and then you start thinking, you're like, oh yeah, they said walking down the street in the rain. Wait. Okay, rain, drops. You know what? I just thought about that. That would be a great concept for when we start writing this article. We can talk about how, things start falling and they fall like raindrops. And next thing you're like, oh my gosh, okay, in the lyric it said this. And it just starts pushing this creativity that you didn't even know existed. Give yourself the ability to do that though. No one said that you have to work 9 to 5 every day, all day. No one said that you have to just do the traditional kind of break. Who? Why? Where? No. Creativity is a part of business. It's necessary. And you are going to need to find your rhythm and your routine for how you do it. The third thing that I wanted you to walk away from with this session is embrace a serving mindset, okay? Removes the pressure of always being creative. A lot of times we get into these creative funks because we have this pressure to create. Why? Because we're trying to create to sell something versus creating to serve our audience. I believe that if you serve your audience first, selling to them should be second. If you serve well, you don't even actually have to sell. It sells itself. But when you are trying to create and you're creating because you're like, well, we've got to make the numbers, we've got to sell this product, we've got to do this, we've got to get more clients, we've got to get more butts and seats, etc. Now you're tense. So now your level of creativity is not going to happen at the way that you want it to because you've got this intensity on you to sell versus having the mindset that I want to create to serve. It takes pressure off of you. And when you have less pressure, you have the openness to be able to think and to create. With a servant attitude, you'll come across as being different than your competition. Quite honestly, a lot of competitors out there are just doing that. They're selling. They're not really concerned about the human. People want heart-to-heart connections. People want humans. They want to know the person behind the brand. That's something Ali said earlier, and it's important. And so you have to understand that because a lot of competitors are not focusing on that, that can help you separate yourself from so many other people. If your creativity is coming from a place where we're doing this because we want to serve our audience. One of my favorite things to do is I decided to serve my audience by giving them their own name. So the name of my business is CD Creative Loft. So I always go on social media and I'm like, hey, lofters. And my friends tease me because they're like, hey, lofters. And it's a thing. But for me, it was, I wanted them to understand we're in a relationship. I'm in a relationship with my audience. They've done their job by signing up and clicking follow and engaging. I've got to do my job by showing up. I've got to do my job by giving them quality content. That's a part of my role in this relationship that I'm in with them. And that's the relationship that you have with your audience as a business. Providing them creativity that is serving them in a way that doesn't feel like you're selling, that you really want to know who they are, what they're about. How can you help? How can you build service offers that are going to provide them not only results, but transformations? Focus on building an intimate relationship with your target market through transparency and genuinely wanting to solve problems and help. It's so important. Julia talked about earlier about being transparent and sharing a lot more of yourself, and I think it is important. People want relatability. They want to know that you are someone that is kind of like either, everybody's got that person on social media, you're like, that's like my friend in my head. Like, I kind of like following that person because they're just like kind of cool. I like how they are. I like what they're about. If you focus on building intimate relationships, you won't feel the pressure of feeling like I've got to create all of this crazy stuff. No, sometimes just building authentic and genuine relationships with your audience will help you to create. You know why? Because they're going to tell you what to create for them. In your comments, in your DMs, in your replies, if you take note of the things that they're saying, if you create a post, I tend to do this. I will look and see what the comments are, and then I quickly go and copy and paste it and put it in like a Google Doc file. And I'm like, oh, they said this, they said that. Okay, so I can create a post off of that. So now my audience is actually helping me to create. Why? Because I'm putting out something valuable, but I'm also engaging with them. And sidebar, because this really has nothing to do with what I'm talking about, but it is important. When you engage with your audience, engage with them at the same level that they're engaging with you. So like if someone gave you a really great comment, don't come back like, thank you. Dare you? You better come back and give me something. Like, I just gave you 2 to 3 amazing sentences and you came back with, thank you. Boo. No. Thank you. I appreciate this feedback. Thank you so much. You're amazing. Like, I appreciate your follow. Because again, they don't have to follow you. And I don't even believe in the word followers because it just feels cringy. That's why they're lofters. Like, we're in a relationship, right? Like, no one's following you. They are engaging with you. They're connecting with you. And you don't know who you're engaging with could become your next potential client. And you don't know who that client is. And let me tell you something. I'm a witness because I literally had someone reach out and I was like, I had no idea. And it actually wound up being one of the biggest clients that I ever worked with. Who knew? All because of how I engage. So sidebar, make sure you engage with intentionality and be genuine about it. Last but not least, help you overcome imposter syndrome. Leading by serving and not selling is going to help you overcome imposter syndrome. When you're trying to create whatever content, whatever marketing, whatever anything that you need to do for your business, and if you're doing it with a place of serving your audience first, it's going to help you not feel like you've got this imposter syndrome. Now, the reality of the matter is that we're all going to suffer from imposter syndrome. Because anyone who's ambitious, anyone who is high level, anyone who is intelligent, when you start getting to rooms and spaces and places and sitting at tables and things of that sort, you're gonna look at yourself like, oh my gosh, and especially in this social media world, these crowded digital spaces, there are freaking amazing people out here. And you can look at yourself and be like, oh my gosh, do I have what it takes? But again, serve your audience. Show up with value. Show up with quality versus quantity. Show up first, consistently. We've talked about that throughout the day. Your consistency is key. Consistency is king. Consistency is queen. However you want to say it, show up. And show up authentically and genuinely. And do it in a way that you are providing your audience, not just with educating them, but giving them content that is perspective shifting, that is conversational, that is something that they've never heard before, that's transformational, that helps them to identify problems that they didn't know that they had. Things like this are ways that you serve your audience. And honestly, that's gonna help you not feel like the imposter, because what'll happen then is that they're gonna now see you as an expert authority. And now your audience is gonna start saying, he or she or they are the go-to people when it comes to this niche or this industry thing, right? I see you shaking your head, so I know you know. You don't tell your audience you're the expert authority, they tell you. They tell you by how they engage. They tell you by how often they're sharing, liking, commenting your stuff. And that helps you to be less of an imposter because you feel like, oh, snap, I do know what I'm talking about. Because these people are not only appreciating it, but they're commenting, they're engaging, they're sharing, they're liking, they're signing up, they're clicking, they're buying. I'm booked, busy, all of those things that people like to say. That is what's most important, okay? So as I talked about creativity, yeah, that creativity flow, it's gonna block us all. It's gonna happen. If you think that you're gonna try to do business or anything without having that happen, you're sadly mistaken. The thing is, when it does happen, how are you managing it? What are you doing to shift that place? You can either stay stuck or you can figure out what you need to do for you, for your company, for your business, for your agency to push yourself past so that that flow can start happening again. And it doesn't have to be something super major. It can be the smallest of things from, like I said, walking in nature or listening to some music or just looking at something that you've done in the past and getting inspired by that and not reinventing the wheel. Least of all, the thing I want to leave you with is this. Embrace your creativity, the highs and the lows of it all, okay? Give yourself grace and the room to be your favorite self creatively. I heard a quote the other day and it said, I no longer am striving to be my highest self. I'm only striving to be my favorite self. And that thing just did something to me because I was like, we are working so hard to be our highest, our best selves, right? And even when it comes to our creativity, we want to put the best creative stuff out there. We want to put the highest creative stuff out there. But the reality is, put your favorite creative stuff out there, stuff that feels good to you, that feels aligned with who you are, what you're about. Take the pressure off yourself of trying to be best, because truthfully, what does that mean anyway? What is highest anyway? Like, according to who? Who is they? Like they said, who is they? Be your favorite self, personally, professionally, and creatively. One thing that I'll leave you with, and then I'm done, is I created something called a Remember When box. And it's been very, very instrumental in my creative management flow. So this actually, the lanyard that I have today will go into this box. A Remember When box is basically anything that I've done that I felt really proud of. places that I've been invited to, conferences, engagements, events, things that I've witnessed, whether it's a ticket stub, whether it's something that was a lanyard, maybe it was a room key, whatever that was, I put it in this box. And those days that I really feel like I can't just get past my creativity, like block, I open that box and I start pulling out these things, articles, features that I was in. And it starts helping me remember who I am, what I know, what I'm about, and what I've done. And it starts opening this window that felt shut in my mind, creative-wise, because I can see in front of me everything that I'm about, at least professional-wise. And so for you, I would encourage you, create a remember when box. Even if you started today, maybe put today's lanyard in there yourself. Anything that you've done that you're really proud of for yourself, and go into that box and open it and remember that you are everything that you know you are. You are talented, you are gifted, you have what it takes, it is in you, and even if it's stuck, it'll come out. Just give it time, give it space, and most of all, give yourself grace. You guys have been amazing. Thank you, Ohio.